The Galactic Unity Academy was the largest school in the known universe. It floated in the empty space between three star systems, far from any planet. The station was massive. It had towers made of white metal, gardens that grew under fake sunlight, and corridors that stretched for miles. More than 50,000 students lived there. They came from hundreds of different worlds. Some had blue skin. Some had 4 arms. Some breathed different air and wore special masks. But they all came to the academy for one reason. They wanted power. The academy trained the children of the rich and the powerful. These were the sons and daughters of kings, generals, and business leaders. They learned diplomacy, combat, science, and politics. When they finished their training, they would return to their home worlds and rule. Everyone who studied at the academy was important. Everyone had connections. Everyone had a future already planned for them. Everyone except Park was human. She came from Earth, a small planet on the edge of explored space. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made contact with other species 40 years ago. In the eyes of the older civilizations, humans were young, weak, and unimportant. They had no great empire. They had no powerful weapons. They were simply there, existing quietly at the edge of everything. Had arrived at the academy 6 months ago as a transfer student. Her file said she was 17 years old. It said she was an orphan with no family. It said she had received a scholarship because of her test scores. The file was thin and boring. There was nothing special about her. And that was exactly how I wanted it. She was small for her age. Her hair was black and cut short. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they had a strange quality to them. They never seemed to focus on anything. When people talked to her, she looked past them as if she was watching something far away. It made others uncomfortable. After a while, they stopped trying to talk to her at all. Sat in the back of every class. She arrived just before the lecture started and left the moment it ended. She ate alone in the corner of the dining hall. She walked through the corridors with her head down, her footsteps soft and quiet. Most students forgot she existed the moment she left their sight. The other cadets had a name for her. They called her the Ghost. Did not mind the name. In fact, she preferred it. Being invisible was safe. Being forgotten was protection. She had spent 3 years learning how to disappear, and she had gotten very good at it. But Park was not what her file said she was. She was not a simple orphan. She was not a scholarship student. And she was certainly not average. Had been born in a place that did not officially exist. It was called Facility 7, and it was located deep underground in a mountain range on Earth. The facility belonged to a secret government program known only as Program 11. The program had one purpose: to create perfect soldiers. The scientists of Program 11 believed that humans had hidden potential. They believed that the human brain could be pushed beyond its normal limits. They took children with special genetic markers and raised them in controlled environments. They trained these children from the age of 3. They taught them to fight, to think, to survive. They used drugs and surgery to make their bodies faster and stronger. They used pain and fear to make their minds harder. By the time was 12 years old, she could kill a grown man with her bare hands. By 14, she could hack any computer system in existence. By 16, she had completed more than 20 missions for the government. She had killed soldiers, spies, and criminals. She had never failed. But Program 11 made a mistake. They created weapons, but they forgot that weapons could think for themselves. The children of the program were not machines. They were human beings. They had thoughts and feelings. And after years of suffering, some of them began to ask questions. Why were they doing this? Who gave the government the right to use them? What would happen to them when they were no longer useful? Found the answers in a classified file she was not supposed to see. Program 11 had a retirement plan for its subjects. When a subject became too old or too difficult to control, they were terminated, killed, erased from all records as if they had never existed. That night made her decision. She waited until the guards changed shifts. She moved through the facility like smoke, silent and invisible. She reached the central computer and uploaded a virus that destroyed every file, every record, every piece of evidence that Program 11 had ever existed. Then she opened the doors to the other children's rooms. Some of them escaped. Some of them did not make it, did not look back to check. She could not afford to feel anything. She could only move forward. When she reached the exit, she set the facility on fire. Facility 7 burned for 3 days. The government told the public it was a mining accident. No one asked questions. No one investigated. The children of Program 11 were gone, scattered across the world like leaves in the wind. Spent the next 3 years hiding. She moved from city to city, country to country. She changed her name. She changed her appearance. She learned to act normal, to smile, to pretend she was just a regular girl. But she was always looking over her shoulder. She knew the government was still searching for the escaped subjects. She knew she could never truly be safe on Earth. So when she saw the advertisement for the Galactic Unity Academy, she made a choice. She hacked the scholarship database and created a fake identity. She passed the entrance exams without trying too hard. She got on a transport ship and left Earth behind. The academy was supposed to be her hiding place. Out here, in the empty space between stars, no one from Earth could find her. No one knew her real name. No one knew what she could do. She was just another face in a crowd of 50,000 students. For 6 months the plan had worked perfectly. Attended her classes, avoided attention, and counted the days until graduation. She had even started to believe that she might actually have a future. A real future, with choices and freedom and peace. But had forgotten one important truth. The universe did not care about her plans, and sometimes trouble came looking for you even when you did everything right. It started on a Tuesday, in a classroom on the 37th floor of the Academy's East Tower. The class was called Interstellar Law, and it was taught by a professor with gray skin and 6 eyes. Sat in her usual spot in the back corner, taking notes on her tablet and trying to stay awake. The professor announced the results of the last examination. Names appeared on the screen at the front of the room, ranked by score. Glanced up briefly. She had scored 73 out of 100. It was exactly in the middle of the class, exactly where she wanted to be. But as her eyes moved down the list, she noticed something. A girl named had scored 72, 1 point below her. Did not think anything of it. 1 point meant nothing. But somewhere else in the academy, someone was very, very angry. And that anger was about to change everything. Was not used to hearing the word no. He had never been anything in his entire life. His father owned the largest weapons manufacturing company in 3 star systems. His family had more money than some planets. When wanted something, he got it. When he was angry, people suffered. Right now was very angry. He stood in his private quarters on the academy's luxury floor. The room was large and filled with expensive things. There were paintings from dead artists, furniture made of rare wood, and a window that showed the stars outside. But was not looking at any of these things. He was looking at his younger sister, who was sitting on the couch and crying. Was 15 years old. She had the same sharp features as her brother, the same cold eyes. But right now, her eyes were red and wet with tears. She had failed her examination. Not completely failed, but scored low enough that their father had sent an angry message. The family did not accept failure. They did not accept being anything less than the best. "It is not fair," said between sobs. "I studied so hard, I deserved a higher score." His jaw tightened. He loved his sister. She was the only person in the universe he truly cared about. Seeing her upset made him feel a cold rage building in his chest. "Who scored above you?" he asked. Wiped her eyes and looked at her tablet. "Lots of people, but the one right above me was some human girl, Park. I have never even heard of her." A human felt his anger grow hotter. Humans were the lowest species in the academy. They had no power, no connections, no importance. The idea that a human had scored higher than his sister was an insult. It did not matter that the difference was only 1 point. It did not matter that grades were based on actual knowledge. In his mind, his sister had been wronged, and someone had to pay. "Do not worry," he said, putting his hand on shoulder. "I will take care of this." Looked up at him with hope in her eyes. "What are you going to do?" Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I am going to teach this human girl a lesson about her place in the galaxy." He left his sister's room and walked down the corridor to find his squad. Had gathered a group of loyal followers over his years at the academy. They were the sons and daughters of powerful families, but not quite powerful enough. They followed because he offered them protection and privilege. In return, they did whatever he asked. He found them in the recreation room on the 42nd floor. There were 4 of them today. 2 were warriors, tall and muscular with blue-green skin and sharp teeth. Their names were and they were brothers from a military family. They were strong and stupid, which made them perfect for purposes. The third was unnamed, were large creatures almost 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 arms, was an enforcer. His job was to hurt people when needed someone hurt. The fourth was a human named. This surprised some people. Why would keep a human in his group when he clearly looked down on the species, but was useful? He had grown up in the same circles as a child of a wealthy human family that did business with the hated other humans. He thought they were weak and embarrassing. He wanted to prove that he was different, that he was better. Found this amusing and useful. "We have a job tonight," announced. The 4 squad members looked up with interest, and grinned, showing their sharp teeth, cracked his massive knuckles, leaned forward with eager eyes. "There is a human girl named Park," continued. "She insulted my family. I want her to understand what happens when someone crosses the name." "How badly do you want her hurt?" asked. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Thought about it. He did not actually want to kill the girl. That would create too many problems. But he wanted her scared. He wanted her broken. He wanted her to leave the academy and never come back. "Rough her up," he said. "Break a few bones. Make sure she knows who did it and why, but keep her alive. I want her to remember this lesson for the rest of her pathetic life." The squad members nodded. This was simple work. They had done it many times before. The academy had rules against violence, but those rules only applied to students without power. His father donated millions to the academy every year. The administrators looked the other way when his son caused trouble. "She leaves class at the 18th hour," said. He had already pulled up the girl's schedule on his tablet. "She always walks alone through the east corridor to the dormitory wing. It is quiet there. No witnesses." Nodded. "Perfect. We will wait for her there." The hours passed slowly. Spent the afternoon pretending to study while imagining the fear on the human girl's face. He pictured her crying, begging, apologizing for something she did not even understand. The thought made him smile. When the 18th hour approached, the squad gathered in the east corridor. It was a long hallway with gray walls and dim lighting. The ceiling was high, and their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. There were no other students around. Everyone was either in their rooms or in the common areas on the other side of the academy. They waited in the shadows near a maintenance door, checked his timepiece. The girl should be coming any minute now. And then she appeared. Park walked down the corridor alone, just as had predicted. She was small, shorter than had expected. She wore the standard academy uniform, gray with silver trim. Her head was down, her eyes on the floor. She looked like nothing. She looked like no one. Stepped out of the shadows and blocked her path. His squad followed, spreading out to surround her. There was no escape. Stopped, she did not look up. She did not run. She just stood there, very still, like a small animal that had noticed a predator. Earthborn said. He enjoyed the way the word sounded like an insult. "Do you know who I am?" Said nothing. "I am, my sister is. You scored higher than her on the examination. You embarrassed my family." Still did not respond. She did not move. Found this irritating. He wanted her to be afraid. He wanted her to beg. "Look at me when I am talking to you," he demanded. Slowly raised her head. Her dark eyes met his and for a moment felt something strange, a cold feeling in his stomach. The girl's eyes were empty, not scared, not angry, not anything. Just empty, like looking into a hole that went down forever. But the feeling passed quickly. She was just a human, a weak, pathetic human who was about to learn her place. "I do not know who you are," said. Her voice was quiet and flat. "I do not know your sister. I have done nothing to your family." "It does not matter what you think," replied. "What matters is what I think, and I think you need to be taught a lesson." He nodded to his squad, stepped forward, his 4 arms reaching for the girl. The brothers moved to block any escape, stood back ready to watch. His hand came up, and in that moment, everything thought he knew about humans changed forever. The fight lasted 6 seconds. Later, when experts studied what happened, they would say that 6 seconds was too long. A truly skilled fighter could have ended it in 3, but was not trying to be fast. She was trying to send a message. Was the first to reach her. He was massive, almost 3 times her size, with 4 arms that could crush metal. He swung his upper right arm in a wide grab, expecting to catch her easily. She was so small. How could she possibly escape? But was not there anymore. She moved like water, sliding under his arm and stepping inside his reach. Her palm struck his throat with perfect precision. It was not a hard hit. It did not look dangerous, but it landed exactly on the nerve cluster that controlled his breathing. Eyes went wide. His lungs stopped working. He made a choking sound and fell to his knees, clawing at his throat. 1 second. The brothers attacked together. They were trained warriors, raised from birth to fight. They moved in a coordinated pattern, one attacking high while the other attacked low. It was a technique that had worked against hundreds of opponents. Caught's arm as it came toward her face. She twisted her body, using his own weight against him. He flew through the air and crashed into his brother. They hit the wall so hard that the metal plating cracked. Both of them slumped to the ground, stunned and confused. 3 seconds. Was the smart one. He saw what was happening and tried to run, but was faster. She closed the distance between them in 2 steps and struck him 4 times in rapid succession. Shoulder, elbow, knee, neck. Each hit landed on a pressure point, sending electric pain through his nervous system. His muscles locked up. He fell forward, unable to move, unable to scream. 5 seconds. That left only. He stood frozen in place. His brain could not process what he had just seen. His entire squad, 4 of the strongest fighters he knew, had been destroyed in less time than it took to blink. And the girl, this small, quiet, nothing human girl, was not even breathing hard. Tried to run. His hand closed around the back of his neck. Her grip was like iron. She lifted him off the ground as if he weighed nothing and slammed him face first into the floor. The impact shattered his nose. Blood poured across the metal surface. 6 seconds. Knelt down beside him, still holding his neck. Her face was close to his. He could see her eyes now, and they were no longer empty. They were cold. Colder than space. Colder than anything he had ever experienced. "You should have left me alone," she whispered. Tried to speak, but his mouth was full of blood. He made a wet, gurgling sound that might have been a plea for mercy. Did not show mercy. She pressed her thumb against a point behind his ear, and his world went dark. The corridor was silent. 5 bodies lay on the floor, unmoving. Stood in the middle of them, her uniform still clean, her hair not even messy. She looked down at what she had done, and she felt nothing. No satisfaction. No guilt, just the familiar emptiness that had been inside her since childhood. But the fight was only the beginning. Knew that what came next was more important. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a regular communication tablet, but it was not. had built it herself from parts she had stolen over the past 6 months. It was a hacking tool, one of the most advanced in existence. She connected it to the Academy's network through a maintenance port in the wall. Her fingers moved across the screen with practiced speed. In seconds, she had bypassed the security protocols. In minutes, she had access to the entire system. The surveillance cameras were her first target. She found the recordings from the past hour and deleted them. Not just deleted, but them with random data. Even the best recovery software would not be able to bring them back. Then she went deeper into the backup servers, the cloud storage, the emergency archives. Every copy of the footage disappeared. But that was not enough. The Academy's AI would notice the gap. It would flag the missing data and alert security, needed to be more thorough. She uploaded a small program she had written months ago just in case something like this happened. The program did not just delete data, it rewrote history. It created new footage showing an empty corridor. It adjusted timestamps. It edited log files. When it was finished, there would be no evidence that anyone had been in this hallway at all. The program took 3 minutes to run, waited patiently, keeping one eye on the bodies around her. None of them were moving. She had hit them in precise locations that would keep them unconscious for at least an hour. When the program finished, moved to the next phase of her plan. She could not leave the bodies here. Even without footage, someone would find them. They would wake up and tell everyone what had happened. His family would demand answers. The Academy would investigate. His cover would be destroyed. She needed to make them disappear. The Academy had a transport dock on the lower levels. Ships came and went every day, carrying supplies, visitors, and students going on leave. Security was tight at the main entrances, but the cargo areas were less watched. Workers came and went constantly, and the automated systems did not check every container. Moved quickly. She grabbed first, throwing him over her shoulder as if he were a bag of rice. Her muscles did not strain. Her breathing did not change. The enhancements from Program 11 had made her stronger than any normal human. She could carry twice her body weight without effort. She took him to a maintenance lift and rode it down to the cargo level. The corridors here were narrow and dim, filled with the hum of machinery. Workers passed by occasionally, but they did not look twice at her. She had borrowed a maintenance uniform from a storage closet. She looked like she belonged. There was a transport ship scheduled to leave in 2 hours. It was heading to a neutral station 2 systems away. The cargo hold was already half full of supply crates. Found an empty medical pod in a storage area and loaded inside. The pod would keep him alive and stable during the journey. But before she sealed the pod, she did one more thing. She placed her fingers on his temples and closed her eyes. This was the most dangerous technique she knew. It had been taught to her in Program 11, and she had only used it twice before. It allowed her to reach into someone's brain and scramble their neural pathways. Not enough to kill them, just enough to break them. When she was finished, would never speak again. He would never remember what had happened. He would spend the rest of his life in a fog, unable to form words or thoughts. It was a fate worse than death, and did not feel guilty about it at all. He had come for her, he had threatened her, he had forced her to reveal herself. Now he would pay the price. She repeated the process for the others. One by one, she carried them to the cargo level and loaded them into pods on different ships. Each ship was going to a different destination. The brothers would end up at a military outpost, would wake up on a mining station, would find himself on a pleasure planet on the other side of the galaxy. Their minds would be damaged but not destroyed. They would remember fragments, nightmares, feelings of terror, but they would not remember her face. They would not remember her name. They would only remember the fear. By the time finished, 4 hours had passed. She returned to her quarters and showered. She put on clean clothes. She lay down on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Her cover was not completely blown. She had erased the footage and scattered the witnesses. But the investigation would still come. People would ask questions. Someone might eventually put the pieces together. Closed her eyes and made a decision. It was time to disappear again. But first, she had one more message to send. Commander had served in galactic security for 30 years. He had fought in 2 wars. He had captured terrorists, smugglers, and spies. He had seen things that would make most people lose their minds. But in all his years, he had never seen anything like this. He stood in the east corridor on the 37th floor looking at absolutely nothing. The floor was clean. The walls were unmarked. The lights hummed quietly above. There was no blood, no damage, no sign that anything had happened here. But something had happened. He was sure of it. It started 6 hours ago when came to his office in a panic. Her brother was missing. He had not returned to his quarters after classes. He was not answering his communication device. His entire squad had disappeared with him. At first, Commander thought it was a prank. Rich kids played games all the time. But as the hours passed and no one could find or his friends, the situation became serious. The family was too powerful to ignore. His father had already sent 3 angry messages demanding answers. Commander pulled the surveillance footage from the day. He started with his last known location and traced his movements forward. He watched gather his squad in the recreation room. He watched them leave together, walking toward the east corridor. And then, at exactly the 18th hour and 23 minutes, the footage stopped. Not stopped, disappeared. There was a gap in the recording, 6 minutes of nothing. When the footage resumed, the corridor was empty. No squad, no evidence that anyone had been there at all. Commander checked the backup servers. The gap was there too. He checked the emergency archives. Same thing. He called in the Academy's best technical experts and they spent 4 hours searching every system they could find. The result was always the same. Someone scrubbed our systems, his lieutenant reported. She was a young woman named Han, smart and capable, but right now she looked scared. From the inside, in real time, Commander, this should not be possible. Our security protocols are the best in the galaxy. No one should be able to do this. Commander did not respond. He was thinking. Whoever had done this was not an ordinary criminal. This was professional work, military-grade work. The kind of work that required years of training and millions of credits worth of equipment. But they were on a space station in the middle of nowhere. There were no military operatives here. There were only students, teachers, and staff. Unless one of them was not what they appeared to be. Pull the records of everyone who entered the East Corridor today, he ordered. Lieutenant Han nodded and got to work. After an hour, she came back with a list. 342 people had passed through that corridor between the 16th and 20th hours. Most of them were students going to or from class. Some were maintenance workers. A few were professors. Commander studied the list carefully. He was looking for something unusual, a name that did not fit, a pattern that seemed wrong. And then he found it. Park, human female, transfer student. Her file said she walked through the East Corridor at the 18th hour and 15 minutes, 8 minutes before the footage gap. But when he looked at the actual footage, she was not there. The corridor was empty during that time. He pulled up her full record. Name, Park. Age, 17. Species, human. Origin, Earth, Northern District. Family, none. Scholarship recipient, no incidents, no complaints, no notable achievements. The file was too clean, too empty. In his experience, everyone had something, a parking violation, a late assignment, a disciplinary warning, but Park had nothing. Her record was perfect in a way that felt artificial. Find me everything you can on this girl, Commander said. Lieutenant Han searched the databases. She checked the Academy enrollment records, the Scholarship Foundation, the Earth government files. The deeper she looked, the less she found. Commander, she said slowly, her records do not exist anymore. What do you mean? I mean, they are gone. Her name is still in the system, but all the data has been erased. Her photo, her biometrics, her academic history, everything. It is like she was never here. Commander felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen data theft before. He had seen hackers erase their tracks, but this was different. This girl had not just deleted her files, she had deleted herself. He needed to find her. "Send a team to her quarters," he ordered. "Bring her in for questioning." The team went out. 20 minutes later, they reported back. Park's quarters were empty. Her belongings were gone. The room looked like it had been cleaned by professionals. There were no fingerprints, no hair, no DNA, nothing to prove she had ever lived there. Commander sat down heavily in his chair. He was beginning to understand what he was dealing with. This was not a student. This was not even a normal operative. This was something else entirely. Something that had been hiding in plain sight for 6 months, watching and waiting. And now she was gone. Over the next 3 days, the mystery only deepened. Was found first. A transport ship discovered him in a medical pod on a neutral station 2 systems away. He was alive, but unresponsive. The doctors who examined him said his neural pathways had been damaged, not by disease or injury, but by something deliberate. Someone had reached into his brain and broken it. Would never speak again. He would never remember what had happened to him. He would spend the rest of his life staring at walls, trapped in a mind that no longer worked. The others were found over the next week and turned up at a military outpost, confused and terrified. They had no memory of how they got there. When doctors examined them, they found the same neural damage. The brothers could barely remember their own names. Was discovered on a mining station, screaming about the ghost with no face. He had to be sedated. The damage to his mind was severe enough that he would need constant care for the rest of his life. Was the last to be found. He was on a pleasure planet, sitting in a corner and weeping. When Commander's people tried to question him, he just shook his head and cried. Whatever he had seen had broken something inside him. The investigation hit dead end after dead end. There was no footage, no witnesses, no evidence. The only thing connecting the 5 victims was the damage to their minds. Experts from across the galaxy were brought in to study the technique. None of them had ever seen anything like it. "It is a neural disruption method," one expert explained. "Extremely precise, extremely difficult. It requires deep knowledge of brain structure and years of practice. Only a handful of organizations in the galaxy could train someone to do this." "Which organizations?" Commander asked. The expert hesitated. "The Imperial Guard has similar training. The death squads as well, but this technique is different, more refined, more," he paused, searching for the right word, "human." Commander leaned forward. "What do you mean, human?" "I mean it was designed for human physiology. The nerve points targeted, the pressure applied, the sequence of strikes. It is optimized for human bodies, which means the person who developed it was probably human themselves. A human who could fight like this. A human who could hack the most secure systems in the galaxy. A human who could disappear without a trace." Commander had heard rumors, whispers about secret programs on Earth, projects that created soldiers who were more than human. He had always dismissed them as conspiracy theories. Now he was not so sure. He pulled up the empty file of Park and stared at it. Her name was still there, but nothing else. Just a ghost in the system. A reminder that something had been here, something dangerous. And then, 3 days after the discovery of the victims, a message arrived. The data chip was found attached to some medical pod. It was small, no bigger than a fingernail, and it had been placed where only someone looking very carefully would find it. When Commander's team finally discovered it, they did not know what to expect. They brought it to the secure lab on the Academy's lowest level. The room was shielded against all forms of electronic interference. 3 technicians worked for 2 hours to make sure the chip was not a bomb or a virus. When they finally declared it safe, Commander inserted it into a computer that was not connected to any network. A voice filled the room. It was synthetic, processed to remove any identifying features. It could have been male or female, young or old. It was impossible to tell. Program 11 failed to contain its subjects. Commander leaned forward, his heart beating faster. Earth's government, our existence. They called us weapons that could not be controlled. They were right. The voice paused. In the silence, Commander could hear his own breathing. I am not a weapon. I am what happens when you create something and then abandon it. I wanted peace. I wanted to be forgotten. Your cadet made that impossible. This is my response. Another pause. Commander noticed that his hands were shaking. Tell the galaxy, the Earthborn do not forget. We do not forgive. And when you come for us, we come for everything. The message ended. The data chip made a soft hissing sound and melted into a pool of slag. The computer it was connected to sparked once and died. Whatever technology had been used to create the chip, it was far beyond anything the Academy possessed. Commander sat in silence for a long time. His mind was racing, trying to process what he had just heard. Program 11. He had heard the name before in classified briefings that he was not supposed to remember. It was a rumor, a legend, something that people whispered about in dark corners. A secret project on Earth that took children and turned them into perfect soldiers. Most intelligence agencies believed it was a myth, a story humans told to make themselves seem more dangerous than they really were. But now Commander knew the truth. Program 11 was real, and one of its subjects was out there, somewhere in the galaxy, hiding among ordinary people. He thought about the neural damage inflicted on and his squad. He thought about the way the surveillance systems had been erased. He thought about the empty room and the missing files and the girl who had become a ghost. This was not the work of a trained operative. This was the work of something more, something that had been created for one purpose, to destroy. And she was only one of them. The message said subjects, plural. There were others out there, other weapons that had escaped their creators, other ghosts waiting in the shadows. Commander knew what he had to do. He called an emergency meeting of the Academy Council. The council chamber was a large circular room with seats arranged in tiers. Representatives from 12 different species filled the seats, all of them powerful, all of them angry. The family had sent their personal representative, a thin woman with cold eyes who demanded answers. The ambassador wanted to know why 2 of their citizens had been attacked. The council member was calling for immediate military action. Commander stood in the center of the room and waited for the shouting to stop. Ladies and, he said when the noise finally died down, I understand your concerns. The attack on these students was a serious breach of Academy security. I take full responsibility for the failure to protect them. The cold-eyed woman from the family leaned forward. We do not want apologies, Commander. We want the person who did this. We want justice. Commander took a deep breath. The person responsible is a human female named Park. She was a transfer student here at the Academy. She has disappeared. Then find her, the woman demanded. Use every resource available. Hunt her down. Commander shook his head slowly. I am afraid I cannot recommend that course of action. The room erupted in angry voices. The representative stood up, her face twisted with rage. Cannot. My employer's son is permanently brain damaged. Cannot is not an acceptable answer. Please, let me explain, Commander said. He waited until the room quieted again. Based on my investigation, I believe Park is a former subject of a classified Earth program known as Program 11. This program created enhanced soldiers with abilities far beyond normal humans. The technique used to damage the victim's neural pathways is consistent with the methods developed by this program. He paused to let this sink in. Furthermore, the way she erased herself from our systems demonstrates a level of technical skill that exceeds anything we have encountered. She was hiding here for 6 months, and we had no idea. She is a ghost, a weapon designed to be invisible, untraceable, and unstoppable. The council member rumbled impatiently. Are you saying we should do nothing? Let this human girl escape without consequences. I am saying that pursuit would be dangerous, Commander replied. Perhaps suicidal. If we send teams after her, she will see them coming. She will eliminate them just as she eliminated the 5 students who attacked her. And if we somehow manage to corner her, she will not surrender. She will fight, and people will die. The room fell silent. For the first time, the anger was mixed with fear. Commander continued. There is also the matter of the message she left. She spoke of other subjects, other survivors of Program 11. If we pursue her, we risk angering not just one enhanced human but an unknown number of them. We do not know how many escaped. We do not know where they are. We do not know what they are capable of. He looked around the room, meeting each council member's eyes. My recommendation is this: close the investigation. Do not pursue. Do not investigate further. Flag Program 11 as a maximum threat level in all intelligence databases. If additional subjects are identified, monitor them from a distance only. No contact. No engagement. Let them live their lives in peace and pray they never have a reason to come after us. The silence stretched on. The representative sat down slowly, her face pale. Finally, the ambassador spoke. You are asking us to accept defeat, to let this human escape unpunished. I am asking you to survive, Commander said simply. The 5 students attacked her. They tried to hurt her, and she responded by destroying them without breaking a sweat. If we escalate, she will respond again, and next time the destruction will not be limited to 5 people. The council debated for hours. Some wanted revenge, some wanted to appear strong, but in the end, fear won out over pride. The investigation was officially closed as unresolved. The records were sealed. The families of the victims were compensated and told to keep quiet. Life at the academy returned to normal. Students attended classes. Professors gave lectures. The corridors filled with the sounds of young people preparing for their futures. Most of them never knew what had happened. Most of them never learned about the ghost who had walked among them. But Commander knew he would never forget. Late at night, when the academy was quiet and the stars shone cold outside his window, he sometimes thought about Park. He wondered where she was. He wondered what she was doing. He wondered if she had found the peace she wanted, or if she was still running, still hiding, still waiting for the next person who made the mistake of threatening her. He thought about Earth, the small planet on the edge of known space, the planet that everyone underestimated, the planet that seemed so weak and unimportant. But Earth had created Program 11. Earth had created Park. Earth had created something that the entire galaxy was now afraid to touch. Commander poured himself a drink and stared out at the stars. He raised his glass in a silent toast to the Earthborn girl who had disappeared like a ghost. He hoped he would never see her again. But deep down, he knew that somewhere out there she was watching, waiting, and if anyone else made the mistake of coming for her, they would learn the same lesson that had learned. The Earthborn did not forget. They did not forgive. And they were far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined.